ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਐਂਡ ਵੈਲਕਮ ਟੂ ਸੀਜੇ ਸਿੱਧੂ ਸ਼ੋ। ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਐਵਰੀ ਥਰਸਡੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਰੂਬਰੂ ਹੋਈਦਾ ਤੇ ਥੋੜੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਈਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿਸੇ ਨਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਸ਼ੀਅਨ ਨਾਲ, ਮੋਸਟਲੀ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਸ਼ੀਅਨਸ ਐਂਡ ਸਮਟਾਈਮਸ ਡਾਕਟਰਸ, ਮੈਂਟਲ ਹੈਲਥ ਐਕਸਪਰਟਸ ਐਂਡ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਵੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਨੂੰ ਲੋੜ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਮੱਦੇ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਰੱਖ ਕੇ ਇਹ ਮੇਰਾ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਵੱਧ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੱਕ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਪਹੁੰਚਾਈ ਜਾ ਸਕੇ ਐਂਡ ਫਸਟ ਹੈਂਡ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ। ਜਿਹੜੇ ਵੀ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲਾਈਜ਼ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਵੈਦਰ ਇਟਸ ਮਿਊਨਿਸਪਲ ਪੋਲੀਟਿਕਸ, ਪ੍ਰੋਵਿੰਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਪੋਲੀਟਿਕਸ ਔਰ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਪੋਲੀਟਿਕਸ, ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਦੀ ਹੈ। ਅਤੇ ਨੋਰਮਲੀ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਦਾ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਆਪਣੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ 'ਚ ਦਾ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੀ ਚੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ। So right now there is a lot happening federally and breaking news is Transport Minister, Federal Transport Minister, Mr. Pablo Rodriguez stepped down as a minister and left the Liberal caucus and he will be sitting as an independent member of parliament. And the reason being, it's not that he respect a lot, he said that he have a lot of respect for Justin Trudeau. The reason he's stepping down is he want to run for a Quebec liberal leadership. So ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ step down ਕੀਤਾ ਆ। The ਦੂਜਾ reason ਸੀ sitting as an independent, he don't want to force a by-election because the election is coming shortly anyways. ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਨੌਨ ਕੌਨਫੀਡੈਂਸ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵੋਟ ਆ ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਹੁਣ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹਨੇ ਪੇਸ਼ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ। ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਪੀਰ ਪੋਲੀਵਰ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਟਰਾਈ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਬਲਾਕ ਨੂੰ ਨਾ ਰਲਾ ਲੈਣ ਜਾਂ NDP ਨੂੰ ਨਾ ਰਲਾ ਕੇ ਐਂਡ ਜੇ ਕਿਤੇ ਉਹ ਪਾਸ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਦੈਨ ਦ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਵਿਲ ਫਾਲ ਐਂਡ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਵਿਲ ਕਮ ਸੂਨ। ਵੀ ਡੋਂਟ ਨੋ ਯੈਟ ਪਰ ਇਟ ਕੈਨ ਹੈਪਨ ਐਜ਼ ਵੈਲ। ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਮਿਡਲ ਈਸਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੜੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋ ਗਈ। ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਜ਼ਰਾਈਲ ਨੇ ਅਟੈਕ ਕੀਤਾ। ਵੈਲ ਦੈਟਸ ਵਾਟ ਦੇਰ ਸੇਇੰਗ, ਇਜ਼ਰਾਈਲ ਨੇ ਅਟੈਕ ਕੀਤਾ। They didn't took a responsibility in Lebanon by pagers and walkie-talkies. It's crazy how the things are happening and 37 people killed in there. ਬਾਕੀ ਦੇਖਣਾ ਬਣੂਗਾ ਇਜ਼ਰਾਈਲ ਦੀ ਲੜਾਈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹਜ਼ਬੁੱਲਾ ਐਂਡ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। Iran is jumping in, so it's a pretty serious stuff happening in that part of the world, and Ukraine and Russia's war is still going on. So a lot of unrest and scary part happening in the different parts of the world. America is in elections, as you know. Kamala Harris and former President Trump are neck to neck. Trump taking on shots at Kamala and coming up with the crazy ideas like in Springfield, Haitian immigrants eating cats and dogs. That's Trump's style, and it's kind of sad, but let's see what happens because election there in November and good to see that. But right now Kamala Harris have a little edge on Trump, but it will be good to see what the result will be. But today my guest is no other than Linda Hepner, former mayor of Surrey from 2014 to 2018. Before that, Linda was city manager, and then she's under a Surrey electors team slate under Doug McCallum. She was a councillor, and then she joined a Surrey first team and become a mayor. So welcome to CJ Sidhu Show.
That's what you're called. Thank you, CJ.
Sat Sri Akal, Linda, and welcome to my show. And let's start with you're running for MLA for BC Conservative Party from Surrey Serpentine. And with the serving in a public life and in a politics, some people take a back seat and they decide to retire. What transpired you or motivated you to run for MLA?
Well, after my 34 years in local government, I did decide to retire. And what prompted me to come out of a very happy retirement was the condition of this province. I saw what was happening, and what really was manifested itself in my heart to do something was when I saw that 1 out of every 3 British Columbians was looking to leave the province. And more importantly, 1 out of every 2 young people were looking to leave They just could not manage affordability. And to see all those young people that I have 5 grandchildren. When I think that their future, they don't see a future here, that was a catalyst for me to do something. And so I've chosen to run with the Conservatives and try and make a common sense change and a difference in the province.
ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਲਿੰਡਾ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੇਅਰ ਵੀ ਰਹਿ ਚੁੱਕੇ, ਇੰਨਾ ਸਾਲ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਰਵ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ 'ਚ, ਫਿਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਡਿਸਾਈਡ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਕੀਤਾ? ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਬ੍ਰਿਟਿਸ਼ ਕੋਲੰਬੀਆ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਿਚੁਏਸ਼ਨ ਬਣੀ ਹੈ, ਸੀ 1 in 3 people are leaving British Columbia, then a lot of young people leaving 1 in 3. So that's alarming number. ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਦੇਖ ਰਿਹਾ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਅਫੋਰਡੇਬਿਲਿਟੀ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ, and that decided her because she have 5 grandchildren. ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਫਿਊਚਰ ਹੈ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਸ਼ੀਅਨ ਇਹ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਆ ਆਪਣਾ ਨਾਟ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੈਂਟ ਬਟ ਫਿਊਚਰ for the children and our grandchildren, and that's a good way of doing that, serving the community. Before I ask about the BC Conservatives, Kevin Falcon, BC United and used to be BC Liberals, he all of a sudden made a snap decision to quit and cancel the whole campaign. What are your take on that?
Well, Kevin, I've known Kevin for 20 years. He's been a long-time colleague, and I have great respect for the fact that he saw the writing on the wall relative to making sure the center-right was not going to split the vote. And I have nothing but respect for him stepping down in order to make the pathway a single free enterprise vote against the NDP government and the socialist policies we're seeing.
ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ ਕੈਵਨ ਫਾਲਕਨ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਟੈਪ ਡਾਊਨ ਹੋਏ ਆ, ਇੱਕ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਨੈਪ ਡਿਸੀਜਨ ਬਣਾਇਆ ਆ, ਤੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਲਿੰਡਾ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਕਿ I have a lot of respect. She knows Kevin for 20 years. Actually, I go 25 years back with Kevin too. He's a good friend. And I talked to him right after the press conference, and he said, CJ, it was a very difficult decision. But like Linda said, that jada center-right vote hega ya, oh split na hove. So he made whatever was the best for British Columbia. ਇਹ ਦੇਖਣ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲੂਗਾ। ਤੇ ਲਿੰਡਾ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਇਹੀ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਫ੍ਰੀ ਐਂਟਰਪ੍ਰਾਈਜ਼ ਵੋਟ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹ ਸਪਲਿਟ ਨਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਐਨਡੀਪੀ ਨੂੰ ਹਰਾ ਸਕਣ। So coming back to the BC Conservatives platform or agenda, what are the, Linda, key issues you are bringing forward? Because the writ is dropped, I think, by Saturday. And the election will be, the campaign will start. And if not, that is already started.
Yes. So we'll go into full gear on Saturday, yes.
Yes. So what is your guys' platform?
But I truly think any topic you raise, there's failure happening. So if we look at healthcare, that is a big issue for us, and it is a broken system. We see even the doctors are now saying, particularly here in our city, we're getting substandard care. I'm worried about the existing hospital promise of many years ago in Cloverdale. The only permit they have for that hospital is to dig a hole, excavation, that's it, nothing else. So I don't know how quickly that will proceed, but that scares me. We need to make sure that that hospital gets built. We also need to make sure that it provides to the people of Surrey the kinds of services they need. You know, we're building a new hospital and not having a maternity ward in a city that has nothing but families and children, being more children than anywhere else in the province. And we're going to put in a brand new hospital, no maternity ward. It doesn't even make sense. So those kinds of things are front and center for me. Health, education, that's a really big thing. I think we have to educate our children,
Definitely, yeah.
not indoctrinate our children. We need to make sure that what we're providing to the kids is enough to make them competitive in a global environment. We need to make sure, at one time, just as an aside, at one time, British Columbia, when you measured nationally for education, we were among the top amongst the provinces in Canada. We are now in the very bottom. So we have let the education system fail us in terms of actually making sure the kids are ready for a competitive environment in the world.
ਸੋ ਲਿੰਡਾ ਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਸੀ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ BC ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਇਹਦਾ ਕੀ ਏਜੰਡਾ ਆ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ CJ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਲਥ ਕੇਅਰ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਹੈ ਸੋ pretty much broken and ਬੁਰੇ ਹਾਲ ਹੈਗੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਹੈ ਸਰੀ ਮੈਮੋਰੀਅਲ ਹਸਪੀਟਲ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ I had a chance to go yesterday, family emergency, and then I'm going again. In an emergency, in the hallways, there is the patients are all over the place, and you see, wow, what's going on. But ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਕਿ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਫਿਕਸ ਕਰਨਾ ਪੈਣਾ ਨਵਾਂ ਹਸਪੀਟਲ ਹੈ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਟੋਆ ਦਾ ਪੱਟਤਾ ਵੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਅਨਾਊਂਸ ਕਰਤਾ 2-3 ਵਾਰੀ NDP ਨੇ ਅਨਾਊਂਸ ਕਰਤਾ ਪਰ ਨੋ ਵਰਕ ਇਜ਼ ਡਨ ਯੈਟ ਸੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਵਾਂਗੇ ਉਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਨਵਾਂ ਹਸਪੀਟਲ ਬਣਾਵਾਂਗੇ ਡੈਫੀਨੇਟਲੀ ਐਂਡ ਮੈਟਰਨਿਟੀ ਵਾਰਡ ਕਿੰਨੀ ਵੱਡੀ ਸਿਟੀ ਹੈ is the second largest right now, probably will biggest city in few years. So ਉੱਥੇ ਮੈਟਰਨਿਟੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵਾਰਡ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਬ੍ਰੈਂਡ ਨਿਊ ਬਣਾਵਾਂਗੇ ਸੋ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਦਾ ਬੜਾ ਬੁਰਾ ਹਾਲ ਹੈ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕਦੇ BC ਜਿਹੜਾ ਨੰਬਰ ਟੌਪ 'ਤੇ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੁਣ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਇਹ ਬਾਟਮ 'ਚ ਹੈਗਾ ਸੋ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਫਿਕਸ ਕਰਨਾ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪੜ੍ਹੇ ਲਿਖੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਹੈ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਇਜ਼ ਦ ਮੋਸਟ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਥਿੰਗ in my past life I was a professor and I love and breathe education and I any time and place I get I always say just educate your kids and
just make sure they can compete, that they're ready for a very aggressive work environment. Without question, education is
the foundation, the key thing. ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪੜ੍ਹਾਈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ so we're so it's a multiple level of issues and the next big one is Linda as you know the affordability and that's why 1 in 3 you mentioned youth and other people they can't even imagine buying a house like $1.5 million house even the condos and townhouses gone to that range how you that part you're going to fix
that is a very difficult issue and the only way to see ourselves forward on that issue is to make sure that we are building our economics, that we can afford, that we can pay higher wages, that the children see a future in this province. But right now, if we look at what has happened historically, we have one LNG plant about to open. During that same time that it took us to regulate, to get through all of the minutiae of processes, 12 built in the US. So we're not competitive. We have got to do something to make ourselves more competitive or we won't build the kind of economy we need to make those other changes. To be able to pay for the kind of health care we need, to be able to get the housing starts we need. But the economy is the linchpin for all of it.
Definitely. ਮੈਂ ਲਿੰਡਾ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਸੀ ਵੀ ਅਫੋਰਡੇਬਿਲਿਟੀ ਦਾ ਬਿਗ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਹੈਗਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਹਾ ਇਨਵਾਇਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਜੌਬਾਂ ਹੋਣ and education ਦੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ there is a high paid when people are paid well and economy do well then people do well so ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇਨਫਰਾਸਟ੍ਰਕਚਰ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬੇਸ ਮਾਡਲ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਚੱਕਣਾ ਪੈਣਾ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਪੀਪਲ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਅਫੋਰਡ ਕਰ ਸਕਣ ਤੇ ਉਸ ਤੇ ਬੈਟਰ ਇਨਵਾਇਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ LNG ਦੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਇੱਕ ਪਲਾਂਟ LNG ਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕ੍ਰਾਸ ਦਾ ਬਾਰਡਰ ਇਨ USA there is a 10 ਸੋ ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੰਪੈਟੀਟਿਵ ਹੋਣਾ ਆ ਤੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ এনवायरमेंट ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟ ਕਰਨੇ ਪੈਣੇ ਆ। Let digress a little bit. Sometimes BC conservatives are accused of, like SOGI, sexual orientation and gender identity, and
BC conservatives?
BC conservatives, yeah. Sometimes, I hear undertones from NDP and other people, and it's sex education in schools, and we were talking early ages, elementary schools and stuff. So, what is your take? Even I, just as a disclosure, Eleanor was on my show 2 weeks ago. She clarified that that's not the case, and a lot of other people on a BC conservative ticket, they explained it. What are your take, Linda, on
My
this?
take is that every kid every child deserves to feel safe in an environment and deserves to grow into whoever they are. But I don't believe that parents should be left out of the equation. And I don't believe in the current, some of the literature that is available to the children at a very young age. I think we need to be very certain that the parents agree with what's happening in the schools, and SOGI in its current form probably does not have a place, but I want to be really clear.
I think BC conservative, a lot of people on the same platform said that they're going to revisit that and fine-tune that, I guess.
And it does need fine-tuning from just some of the literature I've seen. But I think the most important message is that children should be and become whoever they are, but they need to do it within an environment that is safe, that is not being bullied.
True.
So I think that is the fundamental. But the other fundamental is that parents have a say.
That's the main point. So ਮੈਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਸੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਕਾਫੀ ਸਾਰੀ ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਰੌਲਾ ਪਿਆ ਆ ਸੈਕਸੁਅਲ ਓਰੀਐਂਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਜੈਂਡਰ ਆਈਡੈਂਟਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਜਾਂ ਸੈਕਸ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਕੂਲਾਂ 'ਚ ਇਵਨ ਐਲੀਮੈਂਟਰੀ ਸਕੂਲ ਸਮ ਆਫ ਦਾ ਲਿਟਰੇਚਰ। ਸੋ ਲਿੰਡਾ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਆ ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਬਾਕੀ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਪੋਕਸ ਪਰਸਨ ਸੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪਾਲਿਸੀ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਰੀਵਿਜ਼ਿਟ ਕਰਨਗੇ। ਐਂਡ ਦ ਮੇਨ ਥਿੰਗ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦਾ ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਐਥਨਿਕ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀਜ਼ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕੰਸਰਨ ਸੀਗਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਿ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਨਵੋਲਵਮੈਂਟ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਔਰ ਬੇਸਿਕਲੀ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕੰਸੈਂਟ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਉੱਥੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਨਵਾਇਰਮੈਂਟ ਸਕੂਲਾਂ 'ਚ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈਵ ਟੂ ਬੀ ਅ ਸੇਫ this is for education, there are no bullies, and so make sure everybody is there to learn, not to accuse each other.
Yes,
right?
Very much so.
Yeah, and so now you're up against NDP, and NDP is in power 7-8 years now, and they announced a bunch of things, including a hospital, SkyTrain. Now there's more portables in the schools. It's increased. It's close to 400, as I heard last time. So what do you think about NDP policies right now?
I think the most critical question that people should ask themselves as they head to a poll and vote, and I hope everybody votes, either on an early poll in October or at the voting day on the 19th. Do you feel like you're better off today than you were 7 years ago? Because I can tell you, I think a whole lot of things need fixing, not the least of which is the school situation and portables. I had a problem with portables when I was the mayor. So I have a lived example of trying to push for more school construction even then. But we are now so far behind, it will take an enormous effort and enormous money to catch up. But our children deserve it. Why are Surrey's children treated any less than the rest of the province? when you look at a portable, and I don't know, CJ, if you know this, but when you put a portable in, that money comes out of the school board's operational funding.
Okay.
Now, what does that mean? That means the school board doesn't have as much money as they'd like to do other things, like bus children who are not as able as some of our kids are, or most of our children are. So Surrey has been getting shortchanged for decades, and more particularly for the last 7 years.
ਜਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਸੀ ਕਿ NDP ਦੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਪਾਲਿਸੀਜ਼ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ, ਸੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਅਨਾਊਂਸਮੈਂਟ ਤਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਹੈਗੇ, ਕੰਮ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ। ਸੋ ਲਿੰਡਾ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਅਰਲੀ ਵੋਟਿੰਗ ਐਂਡ ਵੋਟ ਜਦੋਂ ਪੈਣੇ ਆ ਅਕਤੂਬਰ 19 ਨੂੰ, ਗੋ ਆਊਟ ਐਂਡ ਵੋਟ, ਦੈਟਸ ਦ ਮੋਸਟ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਥਿੰਗ। ਬਿਕਾਜ਼ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਚੇਂਜ ਲਿਆਉਣਾ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਵੋਟ ਕਰਕੇ ਜੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਬਦਲਣੀ ਹੈ, ਸੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਏਜੰਡਾ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਟਸ ਏ ਹਿਊਜ like an undertaking.
Huge.
Yeah, and they are the huge debt they inherited the $2-3 billion of surplus.
Yeah.
Now not only they spend it, but now in a huge deficit, and then you want to build.
Yes. So inherited something like 4 or 5 billion in the black, and now have driven us to in the red, to the tune of almost $10 billion. And I expect, as John Rustad has said, that number, once you got in there and looked at it, will increase.
Yeah.
That's good. That will take a long time.
A long time, because if you want to fix things, either it's a portable we were talking about, or other infrastructures, and ਇਹਨਾਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਇਹੀ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਰਪਲਸ ਬਜਟ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਸੀ NDP ਨੂੰ, ਹੁਣ ਘਾਟੇ ਦਾ ਬਜਟ ਹੈ, ਕਾਫੀ ਘਾਟੇ ਦਾ ਬਜਟ ਹੈ। ਫਿਰ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮੋਨੂਮੈਂਟਲ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਕੈਪੀਟਲ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟਸ ਹੈ, ਟਾਕਿੰਗ ਅਬਾਊਟ Patello Bridge, or tunnel or SkyTrain, and ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਰੇ ਕੰਮਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ, because my background is economics, so I was a professor of economics, and
well, the numbers don't work then.
It's a pretty scary when we were thinking about fixing a healthcare, ਉਹਨੂੰ fix ਕਰਨਾ ਆ, portable ਜਿਹੜੇ ਘਟਾਉਣੇ ਆ, ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਉੱਥੇ ਸਕੂਲ ਬਣਾਉਣੇ ਪੈਣੇ ਆ, so it's a monumental issues. You were mayor. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me just tell you where some respite may be. So if we look just at the healthcare system on off the top, in Germany we have twice the population of Canada, or Germany has twice the population that we do in Canada. We spend 11% of our GDP on healthcare. In Germany, we have 10 times more administrators.
Oh.
So where is the red tape that's holding up our system? So we need to dig really deep to find out where do we need to get rid of those red tape pieces. Another example of where we can help is we've got 17 mines. So, and British Columbia is a great resource province.
Oh, great, yeah.
17 mines that are ready or could be open, but they're caught up in the minutia of regulations and permits. If we move those quickly, we could get thousands of employees. We could get return in the billions of dollars. So we need to figure out a way to do that, and the BC Conservatives are committed to doing a one permit process. Get rid of all of the regulations in the meantime, or in the middle, that are slowing our economics down.
Oh, totally. So Linda ਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਹੈ ਇਹ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਫਿਕਸ ਕਰੂਗੀ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਜਰਮਨੀ ਦਾ ਐਗਜ਼ਾਮਪਲ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਡਬਲ ਦੀ ਪਾਪੂਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਆਪਣੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਨਾਲੋਂ, ਪਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਪੈਂਡਿੰਗ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, ਐਂਡ ਵੀ ਆਰ ਸਪੈਂਡਿੰਗ 11% ਆਫ ਆਵਰ GDP ਔਨ ਦਾ ਹੈਲਥ ਕੇਅਰ, ਬਟ ਦੂਜੇ ਪਾਸੇ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਜਰਮਨੀ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਹੈ, ਦੇਰ ਇਜ਼ ਅ ਵੇ ਬੈਟਰ, ਐਂਡ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਜੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਐਡਮਿਨਿਸਟ੍ਰੇਟਰ ਹੈ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਲੇ, 10 times more than Germany. ਸੋ ਇਹਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਰੈਡ ਟੇਪ ਐਂਡ
Red
ਯੂ نو
tape.
ਓਵਰ ਯੂ نو ਐਡਮਿਨਿਸਟ੍ਰੇਟਰ, ਸੋ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਫੀਸ ਹੈਗੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਣ ਦੀ ਬਜਾਏ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਲਥ ਕੇਅਰ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ। ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇਹ ਮੇਅਰ ਰਹੇ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਆ। ਬਾਕੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਹਿ ਕੇ 17 ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਮਾਈਨਸ ਆ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਵੀ ਆਰ ਯੂ نو ਵੀ ਆਰ ਰਿਸੋਰਸ ਰਿਚ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਿੰਸ, ਐਂਡ 17 ਮਾਈਨਸ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਉਹ ਰੈਡ ਟੇਪ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੱਲੀ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ, ਉਹਨੂੰ ਅਪਰੂਵਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਆਏ ਅਸੀਂ ਵਨ ਅਪਰੂਵਲ ਪ੍ਰੋਸੈਸ ਬਣਾਉਣੀ ਹੈ, ਐਂਡ excuse me.
Bless you.
So thank you. So that process, how you will, that's a good segue here. You know, the permits, either for a business or for municipally, you were mayor, or for these kind of big, you know, minerals or mines projects. So how you will cut the red tape you talked
Well, I
about?
think what John Rustad has said and the Conservative Party will do is that every time you have a regulatory requirement in one department or in the province, and then you have it in another department in the province, let's say environment, let's say water, let's say somewhere else that you've got all of these various ministries requiring, then those would collapse into a single process and save
lot of money and
lots of
speed up the
time
process.
and money. Yes.
ਸੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ, ਇਹ ਗੋ ਟੂ ਮਲਟੀਪਲ ਆਫ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰੀਜ਼। ਇਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਦੇ ਵਿਲ ਸਟ੍ਰੀਮਲਾਈਨ ਇਟ। ਇੱਕ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਤੇ ਉਹਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਡਿਸੀਜਨ ਬਣੂਗਾ। ਇੱਕ ਤਾਂ ਕਾਸਟ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਘਟ ਜਾਣੀ ਹੈ, ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪਰਮਿਟਸ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਸਟ੍ਰੀਮਲਾਈਨ ਹੋ ਜਾਣੇ ਆ। ਐਂਡ ਦੈਟ ਗੋਜ਼ ਟੂ ਲਿੰਡਾ, ਐਂਡ ਯੂ probably a better person to address the permit issue. You know, even in Surrey, it takes like months, even for house approval, like building a house, let alone the commercial property. And we are talking about affordability issue. So how province can jump in and streamline that? Let's see the window of 3 months or 6 months, if not approved, that Kevin was said one time on my interview that it will be considered automatically approved.
Interesting, because Tacoma, Washington did that many years ago when I was a counselor, and we took a look at that because honestly there is a process that should be able to guarantee a timeline. What happens in the city often, however, is it's not necessarily the city. It could be that your consultants are tied up and can't get to it as well. So there's a very fine line on what you can do. But if you could guarantee that once you got it to and a state that the city could then look after, and now I'm talking for the city out of turn because I'm not in the city,
but you live in the city.
I live in the city. But let's use a ministry example then. Let's talk about in the future what could a process look like at the province. And that would be a guaranteed timeline for put priority on things that are going to create money for the province and the economy. So we should be focusing on what can we do that's going to advance jobs and the economy, and those should take a priority because that's going to make some of that 10 to 12 billion dollar deficit go away. Yeah, that's
so ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕਹਿਣ ਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ, ਮੈਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪਰਮਿਟ ਪ੍ਰੋਸੈਸ ਹੈ ਹਲੇ ਵੀ ਕਈ ਮਹੀਨੇ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ, ਐਂਡ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੈਪੀਟਲ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਜਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਮਰਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਉਸ 'ਤੇ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਲੰਮਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਆ। ਸੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਕਿ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਸਟ੍ਰੀਮਲਾਈਨ ਕਰਨਾ ਪੈਣਾ, ਅਤੇ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮੇਨ ਗੱਲ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇਕੋਨਮੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਬੂਸਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਪੈਣਾ ਆ। ਐਂਡ ਜਦੋਂ ਇਕੋਨਮੀ ਬੂਸਟ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ, then the environment gets positive, people make money, people spend more money, so it's a ripple effect.
Circular, yes.
Circular, because economy have to be strong. Coming back to the capital projects, and you know, we respect environment, no doubt about that. But, changing the Patello Bridge from 4 lanes to 4 lanes, and then the tunnel, from tunnel to another tunnel, like, or a hospital, the way hospitals should be built. Shouldn't we looking at like 15, 20 years down the road rather than just for election 4 or 5 years ahead of us?
Well, if we take our historians' view, they built that tunnel that was meant to last 50 years. I think we're now into like 70 years. So they certainly had a long-term view. We seem to be grasping at, we don't seem to recognize that Surrey is going to be the largest city in the province.
Yes.
And let's plan for what the largest city in the province, with more than 1 million people in a few short years, will need. And on that basis, I think we've been radically shortchanged. Building a 4-lane bridge to another 4-lane bridge, no. On Surrey's side, to our credit, we actually prepared for a 6-lane bridge. So some of the work, if they were to agree on the New West side or the province, was to simply say it's going to be a 6-lane bridge, Surrey can accommodate that.
ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਸੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੈਪੀਟਲ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟਸ ਹੁਣ ਇਹ ਬਣਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਗੌਰਮੈਂਟ, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪਟੇਲੋ ਬ੍ਰਿਜ 4 ਲੇਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ 4 ਲੇਨਾਂ, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਟਨਲ ਹੈ, ਟਨਲ ਤੋਂ ਟਨਲ ਰਿਪਲੇਸ ਕਰਨੀ। ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਵੀ ਜੇ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਸ਼ੀਅਨ 15-20 ਸਾਲ ਡਾਊਨ ਦਾ ਰੋਡ ਕਿਉਂ ਨਹੀਂ, ਹਸਪੀਟਲ ਖੋਲ੍ਹਣਾ ਆ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਫੇਰ ਜੇ ਉਹਦੀ ਕਪੈਸਿਟੀ ਲਿਮਿਟਡ ਕੀਤੀ 15-20 ਸਾਲ ਦਾ ਕਿਉਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੋਚਦੇ। ਸੋ ਲਿੰਡਾ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਗੱਲ ਤਾਂ ਪਟੇਲੋ ਬ੍ਰਿਜ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹ 6 ਲਾਈਨ ਦਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਪਲਾਨ ਸੀਗਾ ਵੀ 6 lanes ਦਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ। ਬਟ about tunnel and the Patello Bridge, if and when your government come to a power after the election, will you go back to the drawing table and look at the projects and see if there is improvement needed? How that will, because going back, Christy Clark and her government, they were planning on a tunnel like 10-lane bridge. And that make more sense. And they already spent close to $100 million. NDP came, they reversed it, and now I don't know where that project is. But what your guys or your party is going to do about it?
I'm not sure where that project would be in the midst of our $10 billion deficit. But I think that...
It's a catch-22.
I think I'm not sure how much work has done on that. I would assume that we would need to take a look at what is the whole transportation plan within the region, because if you look at TransLink, also saying that they're going to have a huge deficit in either service or, in service very shortly, and asking every year for $685 million for for operating costs just to manage the existing system. I think, quite frankly, that the Conservatives would have to look at the entire scope of what is necessary, what is needed for the future, and where we are. Wasting another mega millions in going back, I don't know that would be in the cards, but making sure we go forward, that would be in the cards.
Yeah, and ਮੈਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ, ਸੋ ਨੋਰਮਲੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਸਰਕਾਰਾਂ ਚੇਂਜ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਆ ਉਹ ਪਲਾਨ ਚੇਂਜ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ, ਪਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਦੇਖਣਗੇ ਵੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਹੈ, ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਅੱਗੇ ਹੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਰਜ਼ਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਆ, $8-10 ਬਿਲੀਅਨ ਦਾ ਕਰਜ਼ਾ ਆ, ਜੇ ਉਹ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਤਾਇਆ ਕੰਮ ਫੇਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਕ੍ਰੈਪ ਕਰਤਾ ਉਹਦਾ ਫਿਰ ਬੋਝ ਪੈਣਾ ਆ। ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਦੇਖਣਾ ਪੈਣਾ ਆ, then case by case, I guess you guys will decide.
It would need some examination. I can't answer that question without knowing a bit more around how much money they've spent, how much money they've,
And we have to realize that at the end of the day, it's not government's money. It's people's money, taxpayers' money.
It's our money. And we wasted already with preloading something like 190 million. It's sitting there growing weeds.
Yeah, and they, politicians have to be a good custodian of people, taxpayers' hard-earned money.
I think so. I think that part of our job and part of the reason that we serve is to make people's lives better. And that's quite frankly what I'm putting myself forward right now, is to make sure our kids and our grandkids can get out of the mess we're in.
Yeah, and so ਮੈਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਹਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਸ਼ੀਅਨ ਡਿਸੀਜਨ ਬਣਾਉਂਦੇ ਮੇਕ ਸ਼ੋਰ ਟੈਕਸਪੇਅਰ ਦੀ ਇਹ ਮਨੀ ਹੈ, ਇਹ ਟੈਕਸਪੇਅਰ ਦੀ ਮਨੀ ਸਪੈਂਡ ਕਰਨੀ ਹੈ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਓਵਰਲੁੱਕ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਐਂਡ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂਗਾ ਵੀ ਅੰਨੇਵਾਹ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਖਰਚੀ ਜਾਓ। ਆਪਾਂ ਕਰਜ਼ੇ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਜੇ ਕਰਜ਼ਾ ਹੋਰ ਚੜ ਗਿਆ ਫਿਰ ਕਿਹਨੇ ਪੇ ਕਰਨਾ? ਹੂ ਇਜ਼ ਗੋਇੰਗ ਟੂ ਪੇ ਦੈਟ ਡੈਟ? ਈਦਰ our children or our grandchildren
or their children Yes, I'm very well aware of how long that would take to pay.
Yeah,
if we don't advance our economy enough to absorb some of it.
Yeah, and so all these factors, whenever any capital project or anything, environment is another big issue, Linda, and rightly so. We've seen the fires happening in British Columbia, floodings happening, the environment, the global warming is changing. It's right in front of us. So how you guys balance with the projects and make sure the environment, or you talk about LNG or pipeline, those kind of things, how we balance that we don't hurt environment?
I think if you look at the percentage of that we have that we create in terms of climate, it's so minuscule compared to the rest of the world. But do we need an adaptation strategy around how we manage forests? I think we have some of the best forest management probably in the world. Do we still need pipelines? Yes, I do believe we need pipelines. It's the best way to deliver what's going to be still required for many, many years. We may have a place for wind, or we may have a place for solar, and we certainly have a place for electricity, but we don't have enough electricity to do that which even Site C will only give us. We're 20% an importer now of hydroelectricity. Even Site C will only reduce that to be, we still have to import electricity. So we're not going to change the world by making electric vehicles and requiring more electricity. We're going to need fossil fuels for the foreseeable future, and we should do it in a way delivering through a pipeline that makes sense. So we will use our resources to advantage us in a way that frankly I don't see a change in immediately. Climate adaptation, flooding, yes, Surrey did an adaptation strategy many years ago on how we're going to have to adapt with the dikes, what we can do. Yes. So I believe that there is a place for an adaptation strategy relative to all of the things that are happening as we get warmer. And
yes. So ਮੈਂ environment ਬਾਰੇ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਸੀ, ਸੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬਾਕੀ ਸੋਰਸਿਸ ਹੈਗੇ, ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਾਈਪਲਾਈਨਸ ਵੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀਆਂ ਆ, LNG ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਵੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਆ, ਐਂਡ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਬੈਲੈਂਸ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਵਿੰਡ ਮਿਲਸ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ, ਸੋਲਰ એનર્ਜੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, ਸੋ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਚੇਂਜਸ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇੰਪਲੀਮੈਂਟ ਕਰਨੇ ਪੈਣੇ ਆ, ਪਰ ਇੰਨੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੇ ਵੀ ਓਵਰਨਾਈਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ। ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਨਵਾਇਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਦਾ ਅਡੈਪਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ, it takes time and basically changing people's behavior, and it's changed. Now we see 3-4 kinds of cans, green can and blue can and garbage can.
But we will eliminate the carbon tax.
Okay, yeah, that was my next question.
Yes, we will eliminate the carbon tax in its entirety. We will not do what David Eby has done, which is saying we'll add it on to businesses. That's just going to hide it from you and I, because that cost is coming right back to us. But we will eliminate it in its entirety. We've got the highest gas tax in
Oh.
in North America.
Yeah.
So we need to look at that of the tax structure as well, and we will eliminate the bag tax. The
Which tax?
the bag tax where you
Oh,
have to
bag tax. Yeah.
yeah, where you have to pay now to, you can hardly afford your groceries, but when you get
Oh
them, you
man.
have to pay for a bag. So that'll be gone.
ਯਾ ਸੋ ਦੋ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਹੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਕਿ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜੇ ਗੌਰਮੈਂਟ ਆਈ ਇੱਕ ਤਾਂ ਕਾਰਬਨ ਟੈਕਸ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੱਟ ਦੇਣਾ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਗੈਸ ਆਪਣੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਸਾਰੇ ਨਾਰਥ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ 'ਚੋਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਮਹਿੰਗੀ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਦੂਜੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਈਬੀ ਵਾਲਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੰਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨਾ ਵੀ ਪੁੱਟ ਔਨ ਦ ਬਿਜ਼ਨਸਿਸ ਐਂਡ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੈਗ ਹੈਗੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਗਰੋਸਰੀ ਵਾਲੇ ਬੈਗ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹ ਫਿਨਿਸ਼ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਲੋਕੀ ਆਲਰੇਡੀ ਗਰੋਸਰੀ ਮਹਿੰਗੀ ਉਹ 25 ਸੈਂਟ ਹੋਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੈਗ ਦੇ ਦੇਣੇ ਪੈਂਦੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਲੋਕਾਂ 'ਤੇ ਬਰਡਨ ਹੈ ਸੋ ਲੈਟਸ ਗੈਟ ਬੈਕ ਟੂ ਦੈਟਸ ਅ ਵੈਰੀ ਗੁੱਡ ਪੁਆਇੰਟ ਵਨ ਇਜ਼ cutting carbon tax and businesses are already struggling and you said the EB is going to planning on passing on to the
Removing
businesses.
it from individuals and passing it on to businesses.
And the business is already hurting in this
Yes.
environment. I see that all the time. And so, so you guys will not do that, pass on that to...
No, that carbon tax will be eliminated entirely.
Entirely.
It's doing nothing. It did nothing from
Yeah, they're calling it neutral. They collected and then...
Yes, but that's not so. It is not. It hasn't done anything other than just provide funding for the provincial government. It's not doing what it.
ਸੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਕਾਰਬਨ ਟੈਕਸ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਉਹਨੇ ਕੁਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹ ਮਤਲਬ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਗੌਰਮੈਂਟ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਰ ਫੰਡਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਾਈਡ ਕਰਤੇ ਹੈ ਪਰ ਉਹਦਾ ਬੈਨੀਫਿਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੋ ਵਟ ਦ ਬੈਗਸ ਥਿੰਗਸ ਯੂ ਬ੍ਰੌਟ ਇਟ ਅਪ ਦ ਗਰੋਸਰੀ ਬੈਗਸ ਸੋ ਵਟ ਯੂ ਵਿਲ
eliminate that tax as well. That's just silly.
But we are not bring the plastic bags back.
No. But yeah.
So we have a last 5-6 minutes, Linda. So
let's talk about chaos on the streets then.
That's
is that where
that's
you're
the next?
like?
Yes. Two things: chaos on the street, the crime, and boy, oh boy, the crime is I don't know what's going on. It's going crazy, getting out of hand, unprovoked attacks on people. So let's start with the crime. What will be your guys' policy on crime?
Unprovoked attacks, even in your home, when you see that young woman that lost her life.
Yes.
And then you see on the streets, that all manifests itself in mental illness, not having a place to take care of them, and it manifests itself in drug addiction. So that kind of chaos is, it just we no longer have the kind of community where you can walk down the street with your young family and feel good. So that needs to change. We need more judges. We need more sheriffs. We need more stopping the catch and release of prolific offenders. And we definitely need help for mentally ill. And oftentimes, addiction comes with the mentally ill, or they start out and become ill from the addiction. So we need help on both of those fronts. And it would be our intention to make sure those supportive treatment centers are available. And that's going to require a construction. We're going to need more treatment centers, and we may need at some point compassionate care within voluntary treatment, and I fully support that.
ਸੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਫਿਰ ਮੈਂਟਲ ਹੈਲਥ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੋਈ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੋਈ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਵੀ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਨਾਲ ਹੁਣ ਬੰਦਾ ਬਾਹਰ ਨਿਕਲਣ ਨੂੰ ਜਦੋਂ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਆ ਵਾਕ ਕਰਨ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਡਰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਵੀ ਕੋਈ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਮੈਂਟਲ ਹੈਲਥ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਦਿਮਾਗੀ ਖਰਾਬੀਆਂ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹਮਲੇ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ ਵੈਨਕੂਵਰ ਆਲ ਓਵਰ ਦ ਪਲੇਸ ਇਟ ਹੈਪਨ ਇਨ ਵਾਈਟ ਰੌਕ ਐਂਡ ਦ ਇਨੋਸੈਂਟ ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟ ਵਾਜ਼ ਕਿਲਡ ਬਾਈ ਸਮਬਡੀ ਐਂਡ ਨਾਓ ਮੈਂਟਲ ਹੈਲਥ issue is a big issue. So वो कहते कि ये सारियां चीज़ां नूं जिहड़ा fix करना पैना. There is a मतलब the law and order, the judges you mentioned. So there is a multiple level. And another thing, talking about mental health, we used to have a mental health facility in Riverside, and they need to have some sort of reintroduction, because they, rather than those mental health people are on the street, obviously they will commit these kind of crimes. Rather they have a safe place to stay and get the treatment.
That's 100% right. That closing Riverview, in my mind, was an error that started and closing it with no place for them to go. And now we're just seeing that manifested with street behavior. And then when you see the addiction that has come from the oxycodone and the fentanyl, and they're just...
We're losing 6 people a day.
And they lose their brain. They can't determine for themselves even that they need help in many cases. And I was interested to hear my former colleague, Mayor Richard Stewart in Coquitlam, saying that his daughter needed involuntary care. And now she's out, she's well, she's now a psychiatric nurse. But he said without that involuntary care, it would never have happened. And I think if any of us have children that need care, we would be hoping that there was somebody that would be able to step in and give them that care, whether they wanted it or not. Use that example of that young girl in Abbotsford.
Yes.
Yeah, which was a tragic story.
Very tragic. And, so we're talking about the mental health issues and the help, and we're losing 6-7 people a day with the fentanyl and oxycodone and those kind of crazy, because once you use that, your brain not functioning properly, as Linda said. And in an example that the mayor ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੁਕੜਦਮ ਦੇ mayor ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ daughter, because she got involuntary help, ਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਹ ਮਤਲਬ improve ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਈ, ਹੁਣ ਉਹ psychiatric nurse ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ. So ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੰਮ ਹੈ. The last point is, on Surrey streets now, you've seen that it's a gridlock, like single streets used in a rush hour. Like we never thought we will have a rush hour in Surrey. And now you're going one place to another. Forget usually my office is 5 minutes away. I'm lucky if I get there in 15 minutes.
I always add extra time now too, because, and I say to my husband, let's not go out after school gets out, because now every parent is on the road. So I do agree that we are approaching with our population growth.
Yes. And we're growing, like, 1,000 to 1,200 people a month moving to Surrey. So it's an alarming number. And
providing housing for that many people every month.
Students, international student, infrastructure is not there. But thank you, Linda, for coming on my show. What do you like to address to our viewers, your final comments?
I think I would like your viewers to know that I'm in this for the right reasons. I'm in this at my age to make a difference because I could be home, and I've chosen not to be. I've chosen to come and serve once more, to try and make a difference and to make lives better for your listeners and for the community at large, and particularly for our children and our grandchildren.
So Linda ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਉਮਰ 'ਚ ਆ ਕੇ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਪੋਲੀਟਿਕਸ ਜੰਪ ਕਰਨ ਲੱਗੀ ਹਾਂ, ਸੋ ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰੋ, ਅਸੀਂ ਰਾਈਟ ਰੀਜ਼ਨ ਲਈ ਆਏ ਹਾਂ, ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਜੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਬਣਦੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਚਿਲਡਰਨ ਹੈ, ਗ੍ਰੈਂਡ ਚਿਲਡਰਨ ਹੈ, ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਦੇਖਭਾਲ ਕਰ ਸਕੀਏ. ਸੋ ਮੇਰੀ ਗੱਲ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀ ਸੀ ਲਿੰਡਾ ਹੈਪਨਰ, ਫਾਰਮਰ ਮੇਅਰ of Surrey and now running as a MLA from Surrey Serpentine. ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਕਾਫੀ ਓਪਨ ਖੁੱਲ੍ਹੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਹੋਈ. ਕਈ ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੀ ਹੈਗੇ ਉਹ ਫੋਰ ਫਰੰਟ 'ਤੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ, ਉਹਦੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟਸ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ because we are non-partisan here as a journalist and on Sanjha TV, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜੇ NDP candidate ਹੈ, ask them, ask their platform, ask them why it's not fixed in 7 years, why keep on blaming the former government, you had enough time to solve the problems. So ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਪੁੱਛੋ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹਦਾ solution ਦੱਸੋ ਕੀ ਹੈਗਾ. Same thing you ask a conservative and a green party and other parties. So ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ MLA ਨੂੰ, and then based on their platform, then you make an informed decision. And like Inda said, make sure you go out and vote, because that's the power will make a difference. ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਜੇ ਕੰਪਲੇਂਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਰਹੀਏ, ਆਪਾਂ ਵੋਟ ਪਾਈਏ ਨਾ, then we have no reason to complain about it. So ਇਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਰੋ CJ Sidhu show every Thursday 7 to 8 o'clock. Please make sure to give me a feedback so we can make this program better. ਇਹਨੂੰ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਨੂੰ ਵਧੀਆ ਕਰ ਸਕੀਏ. ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ. ਰੱਬ ਰਾਖਾ. Have a wonderful weekend. ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ.